Thank you so much for joining us today on the Speedway Show. I'm proud to announce on the channel this week we have 1 million videos watched for the entirety of this channel. And I just want to thank you so much for viewing. Today we're going to talk about why I didn't race in England. I have a lot of friends that ask me like, why didn't you go over to England? You were good enough. And I will tell you one of the reasons. There are a few. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the Speedway channel, please subscribe, like this show if you like it. You're gonna like this show, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna talk about some things that I've never shared with anyone in my life. And you are the first person ever that I'm gonna share this story with. I started racing Speedway when I was just 16 years old. I had bought a bike, it was the end of the Speedway season, and I just wanted to race. So I went ahead and sort of put myself on the program at Costa Mesa. I had never really ridden a Speedway bike. I was raw. I was very raw. And I was racing and I wasn't very good because I had no seat time. You know, the people that are good Speedway riders, they want to race, they want to practice all the time and get better and better, but I didn't have that. But I was good enough, I guess, is to entertain one of the greatest Speedway tuners in Speedway history, and that was Jerry Fairchild. Jerry Fairchild, he was one of the greatest. And he saw me as a raw 16-year-old, undeveloped, and he said, that kid may have some potential. I like him. So he came up to me and asked me, can I help you? I want to help sponsor you and tune your bike. Now, Jerry Fairchild was famous. I didn't know who he was. And he was tuning like the Milne brothers. Lammy Lameraw. He had all these famous riders, Ernie Rocio, all these famous early day riders. And then he actually helped Sonny Nutter get started in Speedway. And he was a main sponsor of Dangerous Dub Farrell. And I was the last rider ever to ride for Jerry Fairchild. Fairchild was like a father to me, and I didn't have a father at the time, and he took me under his wings and he taught me all these things that he had learned through the ages about Speedway, about racing. He knew everything. This guy was a master. And I just sucked it up like a sponge of all his knowledge and stuff. And he just went ahead and was famous. He was the president of the SRA, the Speedway Racers Association. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's an organization for the riders. He wanted to make sure that the racers of the Speedway, they got maximum money. The Jerry Fairchild was all for the people. He had won a Businessman of the Year award in Pasadena, California, which he lived there for like 50, 60 years. And he was just an influential man, a famous man. And he was the president of the SRA. As a young 16, 17-year-old boy, a teenager, just a young buck, I was honored as I got to know who Fairchild was and how influential he was. I was honored that he picked me to be his last rider. Of course, he was sponsoring Dangerous Dub the whole time, but I was the last new rider to be sponsored by Fairchild. And he took me under his wing, and I was very honored, and I was very blessed because he made my bike fast. You know, if there's one guy that can turn a rider into a champion, it was definitely Jerry Fairchild. And he used to like be my father. He would call me man. He wouldn't call me Brian. He'd say, okay, man. And I'm like, okay, you could call me whatever you want because I respect this guy. And he used to always call me man, or once in a while he'd call me, you are my young lion. And I was like, "Rah!" I was Fairchild's young lion, his last young lion. He had Dangerous Dub before that. He had lots of young lions. He even had the famous Ernie Rocio, who passed away on a speedway track in 1952 in England. But Fairchild was famous, and he was the most expert tuner of motorcycles that you could ever imagine. I mean, he knew everything. He was involved in fuel injection. He built a fuel injection speedway bike for Farrell. And also, he worked for Mercedes. He built fuel injection. And when Mercedes was starting their fuel injections, they would always fly Fairchild out to Germany to teach the mechanics and the developers about the system of the fuel injection. So Fairchild was a genius. He was more than just a mechanic. He had a mind that just was amazing. Because of Fairchild, I rose through the ranks fast, and he helped me develop as a rider like a father. And I just continued to just get better and better fast under Jerry Fairchild's tutoring. And to be honest with you, I couldn't picture riding for anyone else. I was so into Jerry Fairchild because my development was too fast. It was very fast. And I just said, you know, I'm going to win a national championship with Jerry Fairchild. I know that. And then one sad day happened. I was in his shop in Pasadena, California. And I was working on my bike before the races. And Jerry just looked glum. He looked very sad. And I looked up and I just saw him looking down with almost tears in his eyes. And I said, Jerry, what's wrong? I never see you look like this. And then he looked at me and he said, well, it's Harry Oxley. He's gone ahead and cut the SRA. Jerry Fairchild was the president of the SRA. And the SRA was for the riders to protect them, to make sure they had maximum amount of money in the races, especially Costa Mesa. And he was nearly crying. And I said, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And Jerry Fairchild, he just looked sad, and he was so sad. And he just said, you know, Speedway will never be the same. And honestly, Speedway never has been the same as it was back then. And he just said that riders will be riding for kind of trophies, is what his words were. And I said, oh my gosh, because they were making so much money at the time. And it was so sad that this whole event happened. And this is the event that sort of changed my life. It changed everything.